Hey y'all, welcome back to our channel. Yeah, wasn't recording last week because I was sick.
And I said, don't you come over here and bring that to me.
I was at work and then Friday I woke up and it sounded like I smoked like 30 packs of cigarettes. It was really bad. I sounded like the lady from SpongeBob. What are they selling? Chocolate. Oh, I used to hate it.
She did.
I sounded so bad.
Yeah, I was like, nope, you can stay home with that.
Yep, I didn't want to give you no
stuff. I do that to everybody though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you sick? Stay out of my face.
No, I didn't want to.
I ain't playing.
No.
Stay at home if you're sick.
So now we're back here recording, and today is Renee's turn, and I'm so excited to hear about this one.
This one, my mom actually was telling me about this because, with most things that we do, you know, we either weren't alive yet or, you know, too young to know about it or whatever. But my mom kind of remembered this one happening. She's like, "Oh, y'all should do this one." I was like, "Okay, that'd be a good one." So today we are going to talk about the Rocky Top Village Inn murders. So we're going to Gatlinburg, Tennessee in this one.
Gatlinburg.
Going to the Great Smoky Mountains. So this is the story of the Rocky Top Village Inn murders, where Melissa Suttles and Troy Valentine lost their lives for no reason whatsoever. It's ridiculous, horrible. On September 13th, 1986. But there's kind of, a little bit of backstory. So I'm going to kind of go backwards, like before the murders happened, and kind of go through this part of it. It kind of doesn't have anything to do with the murders, but I just want to do this part of it. Because it kind of goes, but it kind of don't. You'll see anyway.
One of those. It's like, take it.
Yeah. Whatever. So there was a husband and wife songwriting team named Bordlow and Felice Bryant. They lived in Nashville, and they wrote songs for people like the Everly Brothers, Roy Orbison, Buddy Holly, Charlie Pride, Jerry Lee Lewis, Simon and Garfunkel, Grateful Dead, Ray Charles, Bob Dylan, many more people. That's the only ones I kind of put down in there. But it said that they wrote over 6,000 songs.
Dang.
They were on TV shows. You could Google them and watch documentaries about them. You know, they were pretty famous songwriters. But they always vacationed in Gatlinburg. They loved going up to Gatlinburg. And they always stayed at the Gatlinburg Inn. And they always liked to stay in room 388. And that is where they wrote Rocky Top. So if you don't know what Rocky Top is, if you like go to Spotify, you know, bring it up, Apple Music, whatever you have, you know, if you live in Tennessee, if you have been to a Tennessee Vols football game or in any really Tennessee event, you would have heard the song Rocky Top.
Yep.
So they wrote that song in the Gatlinburg Inn in room 388. And in 1982 is when that became Tennessee's state song. So you can still go to the Gatlinburg Inn. It's still there. It's in the middle of town. You can still go to room 388, where they have basically preserved that room. They have refurbished every room in that whole hotel except for that one. They wanted to leave it just like it was when they were there writing their music. And if you go in that room, there's a plaque and like a little thing dedicated to them for, you know, staying and writing the song Rocky Top in that room. And you can go rent that room. Like, you can stay in it if you want to.
Really? Cool.
So, they, like I said before, they always liked to come into Gatlinburg. They loved the area. Well, when they kind of slowed down with everything, they ended up moving to Gatlinburg in 1978. Oh. and they bought the Rocky Top Village Inn on Airport Road. So there we go. You know, it doesn't, but it does. Like they were the owners of the Rocky Top Inn when this particular thing happened.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the song was written up there.
Yep. So, and bless their hearts, little did they know 8 years later, you know, after buying this motel in Gatlinburg, that this horrible thing would end up happening.
So they were the current
They
owner.
were the current owners, yes.
I guess they're not, because they're probably dead now.
Yes, they have since passed.
Oh, okay.
Yes, both of them. But so here we go with the murder thing, and we're gonna be talking about murder. I mean, it's nothing like, you know, we're not gonna be talking about anything totally disgusting like we have before. But
Yeah,
there's
like your Edmund.
I mean,
Kemper.
there's shooting and stabbing, like, you know, murder stuff. So on September 13th, 1986, a group of 4 would end up in Gatlinburg. Edward Harris, aka Tattoo Eddie, Joseph DeModica, Kimberly Pelly, which was Eddie's girlfriend, and Ashley Silvers, aka Rufus Doby, was a trans woman. And I have seen where they say that Joseph and Ashley were together. I don't know if that's true, but I mean, that's what I've read, that they were like a couple. So Eddie, and the reason they called him Tattoo Eddie is because he had 136 tattoos. And he got them basically in prison.
Oh, he got the
because
prison tats.
He's going in and out of prison, in and out of prison. You know, in 1986, tattoos were not as popular as they are today. They weren't as mainstream. You know, I mean, if you had tattoos back in the day, you either got them in the military or you got them in prison. You know, people did. So, especially a small town like Gatlinburg back in the day, you know, they see some dude with all these tattoos all over him, they're immediately going to think, you know, horrible person, bad person, like, what the hell's going on around here? You know, who's this? Because, I mean, they just weren't as acceptable back then.
Yes.
I mean, everybody has tattoo. Well, I don't.
I do.
And the only reason I don't is because, and I tell the girls that I work with this all the time. And, like, the girls I work with have tattoos. I have nothing against them, to each his own. But I cannot get one because I am so OCD that if the thing was tilted just slightly wrong, if the color was slightly wrong, it would literally drive me crazy for the rest of my life. Like, I can't do it. I just can't.
I do. I got tattoos.
And I'm not afraid of needles. I'm not, you know, none of that. Like, I think I have a pretty good pain tolerance, you know.
Yeah.
But, like, I just can't. I'm just too OCD about it. It would just drive me nuts. If I ever did get one, I'd have to get one where I couldn't see it every day.
On your butt cheek.
Yeah. No, I ain't getting no tramp stamp. No tramp stamps.
No tramp stamp.
But anyways, Eddie and Joe had met while in prison.
Of course.
They were in prison in Georgia together. Eddie, of course, was a street guy. He was cheating and stealing and, you know, like his whole way through life. I was telling Kaylor right before we started this, like, this whole thing is just like the POS handbook. And if you don't know, I call it POS is piece of shit. So when I say POS throughout this, that's what I'm meaning. But this is literally the piece of shit handbook. Mm-hmm. I mean, these people come straight out of it. The whole thing is just a bunch of POSs running around, just causing havoc and doing dumb shit. I just can't. It's like, you know, they're doing all this crazy stuff and it's like, I don't know, I'm so boring. Like, go to work, you know, go to the store, like, go to the beach once a year, like, watch TV. What are you doing? You know,
got nothing else to do.
Why would you want to go out here acting a fool? Like, I don't know. I don't understand it.
God, they got no life.
Yeah. But anyways, Eddie, Joe, and Ashley met up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida in August of 1986. And they drove to Daytona Beach and stayed for a few days. Then they drove to Georgia to pick up Kimberly, Eddie's girlfriend. Then the four drove to Knoxville. And Joe had worked as a stripper or male dancer or whatever you want to call them today at a club called the Pepper Tree. And like, I don't know,
Pepper Tree.
like, I mean, I know of strip joints like in Knoxville, but I didn't know that there was like a male strip joint. Like, I've never even heard of anything like that. So of course, I mean, I don't know if there was a bar called the Pepper Tree. If you know, comment, let us know.
I just know the mouse here.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's all.
That's still around too. It's
Yeah.
nasty.
Oh, but anyway, so Joe had told Eddie that when they went to Knoxville, because Joe had danced at the Pepper Tree before, that they could dance there and make some quick cash. Is basically what they were trying to get a hold of, was money. Because they're just going from place to place and doing, you know. Like, that's why I said, dude, sit on your couch and watch TV.
Yeah, for real.
Watch YouTube.
She wasn't even around then, so yeah.
But anyways, so they were going to dance at the Pepper Tree to make some quick money. But the first night they got to Knoxville, they couldn't dance. They borrowed some money from one of Joe's friends that he knew, and they got a hotel room for that first night. Then the next night, they ended up at another person that Joe knew, Tracy Clark. They ended up at her house. But for some reason, they all four slept in the car in the driveway of her house. So I don't know if she like wouldn't let them in or didn't have enough room or what. But they were all sleeping in the car in the driveway.
Jeez.
So then, I think they slept there for a couple nights. And then they went to another friend's house named Tim Farmer. And they all stayed with him. That weekend, Joe and Eddie tried to go to the Pepper Tree and dance. And they didn't have any room for them, so they weren't able to. So there goes their quick cash. So what do? This poor guy, Tim, that let them stay in their house, or in his house, they just steal from him. So they stole a bunch of crap from poor Tim.
Poor Tim.
And then they get in the car and leave. So now they go they end up in Dandridge, Tennessee, at a bar.
Boring.
And they try to sell a leather coat, a mink coat, and a radio to a girl named Johnny Schultz. But she refused to buy any of the stuff because she knew that it was stolen. She could just tell, you know, I mean, it's not rocket science to look at somebody and know they're trying to steal stolen crap.
Mostly with the way they looked like.
Yeah, I mean, come on. So she wouldn't buy any of it. So when they left the bar, they ended up selling the radio to someone at a gas station, some random dude at a gas station. And then they went to another bar and sold the leather coat to some random person at the bar.
So weird.
I mean, they're just doing whatever they can to get a little cash, because none of these POSs are working. You know, none of them doing what they're supposed to be doing. So they're just like sleeping on people's couches, sleeping in cars and driveways, trying to strip, for extra money, stealing from somebody, trying to sell that crap. I mean, it's just,
It's like, can you imagine if we're at
that's
a
why
bar?
I said classic case of POS. This is like chapter 4 in the POS handbook.
You turn to chapter 4.
Right here, yes.
You will find this.
Yes.
But it's so weird. It's like, can you imagine just being at a bar, like hanging out, like, drinking, whatever, and then you just get a guy that comes up, hey, you want to buy a coat?
Yeah. You want to buy this leather coat?
No, you can go away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess it was kind of normal back then.
I don't know. I kind of feel like if I was that of age and in a bar in 1986 and somebody come up and be like, "You want to buy a coat?" I'd be like, "No."
Like when we went to the bar, there was that guy that's selling flowers.
Oh, that's normal.
Yeah, see that's normal.
Yeah.
Flowers, whatever, but a leather coat.
Yeah, they sell those so you can buy them and give them to your girlfriend or some girl you meet in the bar or whatever. That's normal. It's so silly, but anyways. I've said but anyways like 90 times in this video.
Anyways,
so they were saying that Eddie evidently had 4 knives, a gun, and handcuffs hanging from his rearview mirror. And so, I mean, honestly, back in the 80s, a lot of people put handcuffs on their rearview mirror.
Did they?
Why? I don't know. I knew a few people in high school that had handcuffs on their rearview mirror. I never did it. I don't know.
I thought it was supposed to be the fuzzy dice.
That too. There was fuzzy dice too. Yeah. But there was a few people that had handcuffs on their rearview mirror.
Who started that trend?
I don't know. They say that Eddie told them the reason he had handcuffs was because him and a friend liked to handcuff people out in the woods and do things to them.
Things.
Yeah, things. So, you can imagine.
Random people or like people they know?
No, like people that, that they met up with. And I mean, hell, these people are hanging out. I mean, come on. You know they're hanging out with more POSs.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like...
It's like a cult of POSs.
I mean, it's ridiculous. So, they ended up driving to Gatlinburg. And they hiked up the Laurel's Falls Trail. And they spent some time up there in the national park. And they drove back into Gatlinburg. And Eddie said that they should get a couple rooms for the night. And so the 4 drove around for somewhere, looking for somewhere to stay. And I'm like, you driving around looking for somewhere to stay? Like, it ain't hard. Gatlinburg's got like 9,000 motels.
Yeah,
in it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Joe said he had a bad feeling about this, that he felt like something was going to happen. They saw the Rocky Top Village Inn and pulled in. Melissa Suttles was a 21-year-old local girl working her 3 to 11 shift p.m. at the Rocky Top Inn as a desk clerk. She was married to a man named Melvin Hill. They were married on February 12th, 1983. Mm-hmm. Melvin was a dispatcher for the police department in Sevierville. Oh. He also worked the evening shift. So they would call each other a lot, back and forth during slow times. You know, just what you doing, whatever. You know how it is when you're not doing anything. You call your friend or your husband or wife or whatever, you know, and talk while you're bored. So he would also call and check on her. You know, everything going okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Good husband. Yeah. Around 10:30, he called her to check on her. And got no answer. Yep. So he called Troy, the security guard, to go check on her.
Security guard at the motel?
Troy Valentine was 36 years old, and he worked as a security guard for the Rocky Top Village Inn.
There's the answer.
He drove around on his golf cart, making sure everything was okay, making sure everybody's acting right, and what they're supposed to be doing. You know, nothing criminal crazy was going on. Up until this point, he had really never come across anything bad other than people being too loud or, you know, playing music too loud or, you know, just the normal kind of thing.
Normal Gatlinburg thing.
Yeah, like quieting down, you got people next door type stuff. So he had been married and then divorced, and he did have one daughter. There were 2 offices at the Rocky Top Village Inn. There was a small office in the back, and then there was the main big office in the front. So Melissa was in the smaller office, and a man named Robert Bennett was working the main office. So Robert had also called Melissa a few times and got no answer. So he drove down to the little office to see what was going on. And when he got there, he noticed that the lights in the office were on, and then the lights in the room, the first room right behind the office, were on. And so he went and looked in the window of the room. The curtains, he said, were slightly like open.
Yeah.
So he went and looked through the window, and he saw Troy's body laying there in the floor of that room. And he called police immediately. So when police got there, they found Troy and Melissa murdered. Troy was laying in a pool of blood, and Melissa was covered in blood from head to toe. Her shirt was soaked in blood, and so was the carpet around her. Melissa's autopsy revealed she had been shot at close range in the left side of her head, and that she had been stabbed 18 times.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, it was like brutal. The medical examiner said that he thought it was very savage. Mm-hmm. So just like I said, brutal, savage. It was like,
no
bad.
Remorse, just like.
Yeah. So Troy's autopsy determined that he had been hit in the head with his flashlight, shot between the eyes, and had been stabbed in the neck and the face.
Golly.
So, everything that I'm going to say in this next part is according to Joe DeModica. Mm-hmm. So, is it true? Is it not true? Who knows? I mean, you get a bunch of POSs together and it's like, oh, who was doing that? And they're going to go, So who knows? So according to Joe, the story goes, the four pulled up at the inn and Kimberly got out of the car and went into the office to act like she needed to rent a room or was going to rent a room or whatever. And a few minutes later, she came out with Melissa. And Melissa took her to the first room behind the office where she was working. And at this point, Eddie got out of the car and followed them into the room. Then a few minutes later, they all three came back out, went into the office where he saw them go behind the desk. And so they were making Melissa get cash out of the cash register and, they were pretty much robbing the joint.
Yeah.
So then they came back out of the office and went back into the room. Joseph said that he heard a couple noises like bumps, a loud scream, a muffled scream. Then he saw the security guard show up on his golf cart. Eddie came out of the room and the security guard and Eddie began to have a fist fight. The guard began to overpower Eddie and Kimberly came out, took his flashlight and hit him in the head. Then they both drug him back into the room. Joe said he heard again another bump and like a grunting noise. Then he heard Eddie scream, "If you don't do what I tell you to, you'll wind up like them."
Oh, shit.
Then he heard 2 gunshots, and Eddie and Kimberly came out carrying a gym bag, a purse, and he said they looked like they had been sprayed with red paint.
My gosh.
So the 4 drove back to Knoxville. They spent the night in the car in that girl Tracy Clark's driveway again. And then the next morning, they went to a laundromat and washed their clothes. Then they took off to Nashville, where they stayed a couple of days. While they were there, Eddie told Joe that he may have hurt or killed someone.
May have.
And like I said, this whole scenario is out of Joe's mouth.
Joe, come on, man.
So, Joe and Ashley left Eddie and Kimberly in Nashville and drove back to Gatlinburg. Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why would you go back to the place where you had just committed a crime?
Like, yeah.
I mean, I don't understand why they drove back. I really don't. And nobody knows why. I don't know.
Maybe try to play innocent.
But supposedly, at some point, they've stolen a car.
Bruh.
So, they were pulled over for a traffic violation. And then the detectives, or the police officers, discovered they were driving a stolen car. So at some point between, I guess when they left Kimberly and Eddie in Nashville, they stole a car and then went back to Gatlinburg, But they were driving a stolen car. So they were taken to jail and questioned about the car. But one of the detectives, his name was Bud Parton, he had a feeling that these two had something to do with what happened at the Rocky Top Village Inn. And he couldn't explain why. He just had a feeling that they knew something.
Mm-hmm.
So he questioned them about that. And Joe said, of course, I have no idea what you're talking about. Blah, blah, we didn't have nothing to do with it. So, at this time also, there was like a big Harley, like biker rally going on over in North Carolina, in Cherokee. So they, of course, had bikers coming in to Gatlinburg, because Cherokee and Gatlinburg are like 45 minutes away from each other. So they had a lot of the bikers coming in to Gatlinburg and, checking out town, riding around, whatever. So a lot of the other detectives thought that it was some biker that had done this.
Like a biker gang.
Yeah. So they were focused on, going to Cherokee, North Carolina and like asking all the people over there if they'd seen, heard, done, But for some reason, Bud Parton was focused on Joe and Ashley.
Hell yeah, Bud.
And I don't know what it was. It was like he just knew there was something,
Everybody's got that feeling. We've got it. Like when
But
something's off.
Joe ended up saying, well, you're looking for the wrong person.
Ooh.
But that was all he said. And they didn't have anything on them.
Yeah.
So they were released a couple of days later. A letter was found on September 16th, 1986, in a phone booth in Maggie Valley, North Carolina. It was in an envelope, and the envelope contained the letter and a small knife. And on the outside of the envelope, it said, "Please give to a policeman." The letter was asking for forgiveness for the murders. And they had to express remorse in this letter. It said, "I just wanted the money, and I had intended to just handcuff the victims and leave them in the room. The guard tried to take my gun. Joe saw him and took his flashlight and hit him in the head. Then Joe went all crazy and cut him up real bad, and then forced me to shoot them." The writer said they shot the guard, and that they hoped that they had missed the girl. He was afraid Joe would kill him if he didn't do what he said. And he said he hoped the victims didn't have any children, and that he couldn't sleep, and he was sorry for what had happened. And the knife was Melissa's that her husband had given her to carry in her purse. And the writer had said, "Here's the knife just in case it means something to someone." So that was all found in a phone booth in Maggie Valley, North Carolina.
What the? So they're just going to be like, cops will be like, open letter. Oh, okay, well, yep, they're forgiven. Anyways, moving on.
Yep. So, 15 months later, Joe was questioned again about the murders. They also found witnesses that put them all four in the right places at the right times. Tim Farmer said that he noticed his stuff was missing and that they had stayed with him on these particular dates. Tracy Clark confirmed that they had slept in her driveway and said Joe had stolen jewelry and 2 credit cards from her elderly neighbor. Johnny Schultz had said they tried to sell her stolen stuff in the bar. And they also saw the knives that Eddie had. So all these people that they're staying with, you know, stealing from, trying to sell shit to, you know, they're all, you know, telling the authorities, these people were here at this time, this place, this is what they did, this is what I saw, you know, the whole thing. Because here again, we'll go back to Bud Parton. He just knew that they had something to do with it.
Yeah, Bud.
So, of course, when they, you know, question Joe, it's this again.
No, they did it. No, they did it.
So, they found out, of course, through all the witnesses and all the asking and all the detective work they were doing. Finally, somebody's doing detective work. So,
Finally.
they found out who the 4 people were. So on December 16th, 1987, Eddie was arrested in Atlanta, Georgia. He bullshitted with police. He went back and forth with his statements. He claimed Joe and Ashley had committed the murders. This again. He said Joe was the one with the handcuffs and the knives, not him. He later finally admitted to being in Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg area. Like at first he was like, oh, and they're on, I don't know what you're talking about, you know. Well, he finally admitted to it. And then the letter was brought in, and they they got a handwriting specialist. And you're like, okay, who wrote this letter?
Yeah.
Who wrote the letter, left it in the, you know, phone booth, and is accusing Joe of the whole thing, right?
Don't tell me it was Joe.
So, the handwriting specialist looked at the note in the phone booth, and then she examined all 4 suspects' handwriting. And the note was determined to be Eddie's handwriting.
Oh.
Tattoo Eddie.
I thought it was going to be Joe.
Well, why would Joe write a letter and remind himself?
Okay, they're SOBs.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some reasons they're stupid.
I mean, they're pretty damn stupid, I'll tell you. But it was determined to be Eddie's. So evidently Eddie wrote this letter and stuck it in the phone booth. So Eddie's blaming Joe. Joe's blaming Eddie. I mean, do you really ever know who it really was? No.
For real.
I mean, you don't.
And then you got the 2 other people that are like, I'm just here for the party.
I know, like I'm just the significant other. I don't know what you're talking about, you know. But now, Joe claims that, you know, I mean, oh my gosh, what was Eddie's girlfriend's name? Kimberly. Joe claims that Kimberly helped Eddie, you know, kill these 2 people.
Yeah.
So, supposedly she was part of it, according to Joe. So the only one so far in this group of 4 that hasn't evidently touched anybody is Ashley.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
It's like, what was she doing?
I mean, I don't know. So, Joe's testimony and the note were their 2 key factors for the state's case. They brought in Eddie's ex, and she said she had helped him with his handwriting and his reading. And she said they showed her the note, and she said that was definitely Eddie's writing. So Eddie was born in Baltimore, Maryland, and he grew up in Asheville, North Carolina. and he only had a 3rd grade education. He was on his own by 14.
Aw.
So, I mean, this is where all the criminal stuff comes in.
Yeah.
Like, he's been on his own since he was 14. He didn't read or write very well. Like, he's just, you know, being a POS. Like, what chance did he have by himself at 14 not to be a POS? I don't, you know. So, Eddie had also been convicted of rape, armed robbery, armed robbery, and aggravated sodomy on January 27, 1976. And he was sentenced to 15 years in prison for those crimes.
Golly.
So there's one of his stints in jail.
Got a rap sheet.
Yeah, he does. So I tried to find anything that I could on Joe DeMonica, Kimberly Pelly, and Ashley Silvers. And I could not find any backstories on any of these 3 people.
Wow.
Other than Joe was in and out of prison, I don't know anything about him. The only one I could find anything on was Tattoo Eddie. And, you know, being done in 3rd grade and being on his own at 14 and where he grew up.
Dang.
But, like, that was all I could find.
Ain't got no backstory.
So we don't know, other than Eddie, we don't know how the other 3 got in the situation that they were in. During Eddie's trial, Joe testified against him, and then Ashley backed him up, because of course, you know, they're together, I guess that's what they say.
Yeah, couple.
So Eddie was sentenced to death and was put on death row. But in 2002, he was determined to be mentally ill, so he couldn't be executed. So then he received 3 consecutive life sentences. And then on March 10th, 2015, Eddie was killed by a fellow inmate at Morgan County Correctional Complex in Tennessee.
Dang.
He got, basically, dude made a shank and, yeah.
Jeez, he got shanked in prison.
He did. He sure did. So during Joe DeMonica's trial, Ashley changed her mind and said that Joe knew more about the crime than he was saying. So at first she's backing him up. And then when it's his turn to go on trial, she's saying, oh, wait a minute. Joe knows more than he's telling y'all. You know.
She's a backstabbing bitch.
During the trial, when she changed her mind and basically was like, hey, he knows more than he's saying, you know. He jumped up and screamed and hollered at Ashley and threatened to kill her in the middle of the courtroom.
Oh yeah, that's really gonna help your case there, bud.
For real. Joe was sentenced to life plus 40 years.
Dang.
He died in prison in 2006.
Was he shanked?
No.
Oh.
I think he had cancer.
Oh, okay. That's pretty bad.
So, Ashley Silvers, aka Rufus Dobie, pleaded guilty and received 25 years for being an accessory. She was released in 2005. So, out here living the life, I guess.
She's still alive.
Yep.
Let's go find her.
So, Kimberly Pelly, the girlfriend of Tattoo Eddie, her mother actually talked her into turning herself in.
Oh.
So, she went and turned herself in. They thought that she had more to do with helping in the murders because of Joe's testimony. So, she received a life sentence. But she was paroled in 2011.
Whoa.
And supposedly she's living in the Nashville area somewhere. So both the accessories, I guess you could call them, are still alive and out.
Yeah, living the life.
Bud Parton, the detective that always believed that, you know, they had something to do with it and not the bikers, He died shortly after Eddie was put on death row of heart failure at 61 years old. So he didn't, he saw him get put on death row, but that's all he saw. So he didn't know anything else. So
good for you, bud. Good.
So the Rocky Top Village Inn is no longer there. It was torn down, and there is a Courtyard Marriott built in the place where it was sitting. So if you go to Gatlinburg today and go up Airport Road and you see the Courtyard Marriott, that is where the Rocky Top Village Inn used to be. And
why did they tear it down? I guess
because
it's
old. That thing was like, so that couple bought it in, like 80. When did they buy it?
That's probably copyright.
If I can find it. 1978. So they bought it in 78.
Yeah.
And it had been there way before that. Mm-hmm. So, and I do know it stayed open, like after the murders for a long time. I think they tore it down in like the early 2000s. Like maybe, 2001, 2002. I couldn't find like what year they tore it down in, because I did look to see.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it was like early 2000s.
Jeez.
Yeah. And then they ended up building the Courtyard Marriott. But, I guess, like I said, it's just old.
Yeah. And
like ready to be demolished. But there's the actual inn has a Facebook page.
Really?
Like if you look it up on Facebook, you can find Rocky Top Village Inn. And you can see where people like commented and stayed there and stuff before it was torn down. So they used it. It was still an open hotel for quite a while.
Can you imagine staying in a place that somebody was murdered in?
No. That would be so weird.
I would totally do that.
That would be so weird.
But that's just, if like we were, you were probably around when all this was happening, like your age.
Yeah.
Like, not.
I was like 10 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like, but if like both me and you were around that time, and like as our age now, walking around somewhere and be like, oh my gosh, like right in there is where those people were killed and murdered, and you can like see it. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they ever put anybody in that room. It doesn't say. Like you can't find out anything like that as far as research goes, because I looked up little things, but there's not a whole lot other than what I just told you out there on this story.
Yeah.
Like you can't, like I said, I couldn't find backgrounds of, the other three besides Eddie. And it was just a short little background thing. It's just like,
enough
there just wasn't a lot of
scratch the surface and wanting to know more.
But seriously, like I said, group of just POSs.
Yes.
Like, what are you doing, people? Sleeping in driveways, ain't got a job, like
wanting to strip.
What are you doing? Like, I don't know. I just don't get it. I'm just too boring. I don't you could do, if you want to rob, whatever, don't rob, but, if you're going to do that, you don't have to kill anybody. Well, that's this whole thing was just, it was so senseless.
Yeah.
Like, what, that poor girl was 21 years old, just working.
Married, yeah.
Like, and if you want the money out of the cash register, she walked you back in there. She gave you the money. Mm-hmm. Freaking go. Leave.
Yeah, just go leave.
What are you doing? There's no reason to kill anybody. Mm-mm. And I think all they ended up getting was like $400 and something out of the register, and then whatever money that she had in her purse, which wasn't even that much.
No.
So they couldn't have walked away with any more than a few $100.
Yeah.
And they've done killed 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
One of them 21 years old, hadn't even had time to live her life with her husband and have children and, all that. And then, the other one has a daughter that, he never got to see grow up and she never got to be with him.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
None of that.
Yeah, for a few $100.
Yeah.
Like,
that you're probably going to blow through within the next, a
of course
day.
they are. Because they're probably doing drugs or whatever, I mean, honestly. Like, who knows? I don't know, but.
Oh, you know, it's definitely. You know they've been doing them. That's all I'm going to say.
But, yeah, classic POS handbook shit right there.
For real. For real. It's just it's stupid.
It is.
It's like some of these other, ones we talk about, it's kind of they're all stupid, but that's top tier stupid.
Yeah, it's top stupid.
Top stupid. Top tier
yeah,
stupid.
top tier dumbass.
Dumbasses.
My husband says, you just eat up with the dumbass. That's exactly what... They are all eat up with the dumbass. That's what they are. And it's like, here again, okay, you've got the girlfriend. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. You know this guy is a POS, and you're going to go off running around with him, and you're going to sleep in a car in somebody's driveway? Like, dude, no, I'm going home. Like, why are you even, what are you doing?
Because they probably got parent issues. You know what I'm about? Like, some of those people, their mom and dad are strict or whatever. They're like, well, I'm going to go be with the bad boy.
Yeah, Yeah, that's what you get right there.
Now look at you.
Exactly.
You were involved in a murder. Mm-hmm. So, bet you feel real great about yourself now.
I mean, it's just
stupid.
The whole thing's just senseless. But that was the story of the Rocky Top Village Inn murders in Gatlinburg in 1986.
Yeah, thanks for the story.
And I mean, you wouldn't think that, if anybody has ever been to Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, it's so it's busy, but it's still so small town feeling, and everybody's just having a good time. Everybody's just playing putt-putt and riding golf cart and, moonshine tasting and buying airbrush t-shirts and,
pop-up book pies.
You wouldn't think that something like that would happen.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't, if you're walking those streets, you don't feel that way.
No.
I mean, of course, you're in Pigeon Forge. Where's the first place everybody goes? Dollywood.
Yeah.
You're not going to be at Dollywood thinking somebody was murdered down the street. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just weird.
The only thing you got to worry about up there is bears walking the road.
For real. Y'all, this is totally off topic. I'm going off the rails.
All right, come on, Fred.
All right.
Pulling a daddy.
Pulling my daddy. So, don't feed the bears.
Don't feed them, seriously.
Like, bears are wild animals. Mm-hmm. I don't care if you see them downtown. They're still wild animals. If you start feeding them, they are going to come downtown. Mm-hmm. They're going to come to, the cabins and all the stuff if you leave trash out. Yeah. They smell that. And then that's when people get hurt. If you're going to stick a French fry in your hand out the window at a bear, you're going to get your arm clawed off. Mm-hmm. They're not little puppy dogs.
Nope.
Everybody's trying to protect the bears and keep them in the mountains where they're supposed to be. And it just I've seen people, the bears will come down and I've seen people say, oh, the poor bear, give it something to eat. No.
They can
it needs to be eating, I'm sorry for the people that, are animal people or whatever and don't want to hear this. But bears need to be killing turkeys and rabbits and things that they should be eating in the wild. Not
a waffle fry from Chick-fil-A.
Exactly. They don't need to be in the trash can getting your leftover bacon from your cabin in the morning. Mm-hmm. It just You're not doing anything for them, y'all, okay?
Side story to that. We stayed at a cabin one time and we were sitting on the couch and we're sitting there and we just got out of the hot tub and our bathing suits are in the dryer and we're sitting there and I'm hearing like a ka-dunk, ka-dunk, and I thought it was our bathing suits in the dryer and I'm like, hey, what is that noise? And Renee goes, I wonder if it's a bear. We look out the
Well, first I thought it was a raccoon. I
Yeah.
was like, maybe there's a raccoon outside. Now, before we finish this, I put our trash in the bear safe trash can
Yep.
and put the lock on it.
Put the lock on it. We go to the front door. Literally, here's the front door. Little steps. The trash can's right here. I mean, it's like literally we could have walked outside and touched the bear. There's a bear in the trying to open the
He
trash
had
can.
his claws in the grate of that trash can thing, pulling on it. So that's what we were hearing, because he was pulling on it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right. I mean, they will come get that stuff.
Bear. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Just stay away from it. Okay, here's another thing.
They can get aggressive, especially the mamas.
I'm
with
about
the
to
cubs.
say, stay away
Back
from the
up.
cubs.
Back up.
Like seriously, like look at it from a distance. Stay away from the cubs.
Yeah.
That's why everybody says, "Oh, mama bear." Mama bears, they'll pick you up.
Yep.
Same thing with actual animals.
I mean, just because we don't want to feed the bears downtown doesn't mean we don't love the bears.
Yeah, we love them. They're cool.
You
to look at,
gotta, but
whatever.
they gotta be in the wild. They gotta be in their space and their, habitat. Like, don't mess with the bears, y'all.
Stay with
Okay.
the bears. That's the only thing you have to worry about if they're in Gatlinburg is the bears. Not to
So,
worry about the
anyways,
bears.
after that whole thing,
Side story. Back on
Yeah.
topic.
but
Traffic.
thanks for hanging out with us today. We really appreciate it. Subscribe, like, listen to us on Spotify,
Subscribe, y'all.
all the stuff,
Come on. Candace, thank you for the story. We love you, Candace. Anyways, we'll see you guys
Yep.
next week when
We'll
it's my
see you on
turn.
our next one. Listen to Kaylor.
I still don't know what I'm talking about, but we'll find out.
See you later.
Bye-bye.